Lucid. We're going to talk today about data-driven sustainability solutions for higher education leaders. This is a topic that we're really excited to talk about. As some of you may know, and some of you might not know, a lot of the roots of Lucid's company really are in the higher education segment, where one of our founders, Vladi Shuntrov, who we're lucky enough to have with us here today, really started Lucid as a project at Oberlin University, and that success of that project then grew to be something big throughout that university, and then started moving across the country from university to university in terms of helping these universities engage students and make sustainability part of the culture at these universities. So even though as a company we've moved into a lot of different directions, this is really still very much at the heart of not only what we do, but who we are. So with that, I'd like to turn the time over to Vladi. And if you have questions throughout the webinar today, please feel free to put them into the questions box. We'll try and address questions as we can throughout. And then we'll also have time at the end to address any questions that come up. With that, Vladi, let me turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Ralph. I appreciate it. So as again, as some of you guys know, we started Lucid over 12 years ago in 2004, really as a research effort that came out of Oberlin College. And this is actually the building that really made me fall in love with buildings and become passionate about the built environment. How do we go and make buildings a lot more efficient? This is the Lewis Center for Environmental Studies at Oberlin. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to study there. This was one of the greenest buildings and also one of the most important buildings of the 20th century, according to Time magazine. It had all sorts of different systems. It was supposed to be net zero. Now it is. It took time to get there. It had a living machine that recycled all the wastewater. It had all kinds of new technologies, a geothermal system, photovoltaic generation, passive heating. And the issue that the building faced was that it wasn't performing very well. And we couldn't figure out why. The facilities teams couldn't figure out why. The technology wasn't there to answer that question. And so we, as a group of research students led by Professor John Peterson, who's heading up the Environmental Studies Department at Oberlin, really set out to go and figure that out with some grants from NREL and a couple other organizations. And we instrumented the building to produce data every single minute across 400 different measurement points, which at the time, that was really big data, but no one had done that. Even the database technologies couldn't keep up with what we were doing. And through that, I really gained my passion for data-driven decisions. I gained my passion for how do you connect the built environment with traditional software tools and unlock intelligence that can allow us to operate all these assets around us in a very different way than we could in the past. And where we went from there through John's mentorship was to go and figure out, hey, can we take this technology that we have developed for this really complex, sophisticated next-generation building and apply it to otherwise dumb buildings that don't have a lot of intelligence, that don't have a lot of different systems in them, and can we go and make the people in those buildings significantly smarter in how they think about the decisions they make every single day? And the challenge we faced was that getting data out of buildings is hard. They're manual meters, literally stuck in the basement. This is me and another student reading meters in the basement of Harkness, one of the dorms, to try and introduce that type of feedback. And then we went and got a grant from the EPA to build a monitoring system that was wireless and could get data every 20 seconds on the performance of these buildings, and then put it in front of people. And the effect was pretty astounding. We were able to go in and by introducing this feedback mechanism, reduce the energy use in these buildings by 55% and 56% respectively, because they had a real-time component to them. Running a competition across the campus enabled other buildings to save as well, but not nearly as much as the buildings with the real-time feedback. So that was really the aha moment that kind of convinced us that we have to build a business that is focused around data. How do we liberate and unlock data from buildings, and how do we use it to motivate and empower people to be better stewards of the built environment? And one of the things we did well in the beginning, and one of the things that we excel at as a company is how to make the data contextual and intuitive to non-technical users. Obviously, students don't know how buildings work. And we were very successful in being able to motivate them. When you put information in the right context towards facility and energy managers, it's pretty incredible what they can do. But you got to make it simple, and you got to make it engaging. And so we started off with the occupant engagement dashboards, for which many of you know Lucid. That's really where we started as a company. We've grown significantly since then, for those of you that have followed us, and now provide a lot of capabilities for a lot of different teams, for finance, for planning, for sustainability management, for energy management, for facility operations. Along the way, we have tried out different programs that pair the technology with sustainability practitioners' initiatives, so we can actually go and motivate people to act. Because technology in and of itself, if it doesn't connect to people who take action, is not going to be effective. And so today is really a discussion that goes beyond competitions. Today is a discussion to show you how different organizations are harnessing data in different ways to go and unlock savings, to go and educate students, to go and empower staff members, to go and engage facility operators and energy management teams, so that energy management and building stewardship is really democratized across your campus. The challenge that all of you face, the challenge that we face as an industry, is that the state of the art across most buildings continues to be manual, and that takes a lot of time. Even though you may have interval metering already in place that's automated in some way, working with the data is still a fairly manual process. Doing the reporting, doing the engagement, running the programs, it's still a fairly manual process. And this is a photo that we actually took from a customer of ours who needs to run a budgeting process across their buildings, and this is the stack. This is the stack that they manually enter into Excel every single month, and we help them fully automate that process. So this is not just about competitions, but this is about creating accountability across your organization, being able to have the data on actual use for all your buildings, be able to allocate it by department, by building, and then being able to make it very visible to staff and students and faculty of what their use is as a department, and make sure that they are on budget, and make sure that they, every day in their operations and how they conduct their work, they are aware of how they impact the bottom line of the organization, both from a carbon perspective, an energy and water perspective, and a financial perspective. And whatever you do with data, the first step is always going to have to be to centralize all the information, because data is spread across a lot of different silos. And buildings generate a tremendous amount of information. There are building systems, BMS systems, IoT sensors, lighting, air quality, distributed generation, renewables, HVAC, thermostats, submeters. The list goes on. We've also now been doing some pretty interesting developments around capturing occupant feedback, and things that we're excited to announce in the future with some new product releases coming up early next year. And as you look at how you connect the dots between these silos and make data access easy, you're faced with a lot of different systems, a lot of different BMS vendors, a lot of submetering vendors, your utility, the bills, the finance department, and the software that comes with those solutions is, number one, technical, number two, not very good for the most part, because it doesn't come from software companies that are focused around how the technology should be used. It comes from infrastructure companies. And number three, it's largely underutilized because it's so hard to use. And so what we do and what we really focus on is helping you centralize all the data, make it business ready so you can actually use it across your organization in a variety of ways that we're going to discuss. And so Building OS, which is the platform that we built to scale our efforts in delivering the capabilities that we offer as a company and build all these additional solution sets, has really now established itself as the most comprehensive and intelligence platform for building operation, and as the true leader in the space of liberating data, democratizing data, making it accessible, making it simple to use for any stakeholder, not just sustainability, not just energy, not just facilities, but every stakeholder. And again, for us, the goal is let's eliminate the manual steps. Let's make sure you don't have data silos. Let's get you off of spreadsheets. Let's make the data useful, so it's not sitting around in an Excel spreadsheet locked away on someone's computer. And so after you go and centralize the information in one place, typically what a lot of the customers that we work with do next is they set out on a discovery process. They want to go and figure out, where do we stand, where do we have efficiency opportunities, what kinds of sustainability programs can we run, what have others done that is successful that we want to go and run as well, how do we scale that out, and then they'll move on to actually taking action and doing improvements. So when you look at discovery, you really want to think about the different personas, the different people in your campus. You want to look at facilities and what their goals are, which are to keep everyone comfortable and make sure that the buildings work. You want to look at energy, and your energy management team, their goal is really to make sure the buildings run efficiently and you're spending as little on energy as possible, and you actually are making progress towards your carbon neutrality goals. You want to look at students, where your goal is really to create educational and engagement opportunities for them. You want to make sure you enable research using real-world objects and real opportunities. That's how we got started as a company. The Lewis Center was really designed to not be a place where learning occurs. It was really designed as a building which was to be incorporated into the curriculum itself, and it really lived up. David Orr came up with that and spearheaded funding for the project, and that was really his concept and idea, and it really came to fruition. A lot of companies did get started because we were so tightly incorporated into the curriculum and the building itself and all the opportunities it provided. And then you have the sustainability piece, which is really, one big element of sustainability management is communication, internal and external marketing, engaging all the other stakeholders, making sure you reach the goals. And then finally, there's a strong finance component, because doing all this takes money. And you need to understand that if you're investing capital, then you're getting the right ROI, and you're enabling reinvestment from savings. So engaging the finance stakeholders is pretty key. And to us, we started with dashboards as a company. We started with data visualization. We've really progressed forward, where we have now launched an entirely new solution set called Building OS Dashboards. They're designed to really harness all these different stakeholders and provide use case specific visualizations for energy, for finance, for tenants, for occupants, for the public, for sustainability, and make them very, very simple to use, so that you can really construct the views that are aligned with the goals that you have. You may have a goal of educating people about the green building you have on campus and how it's net zero and how much energy it's producing, and make that visible. You may have a goal of reducing energy use by 15% and hitting an energy efficiency goal, and you got to drive to that and track the KPIs. You may have a goal to make sure that all the buildings are scheduled very well. And so again, you need data and visualizations to support those goals. And as you look at sort of how dashboards have evolved, we've really focused on making them comprehensive, making them focused on solving specific problems, make them super simple to configure so you don't have to call us, you can be as self-sufficient as possible. And finally, they're really designed for collaboration. So you can have classroom exercises, you can have collaboration between finance and sustainability, and make that as streamlined as possible, so you can drag and drop things, export PDFs, print reports, schedule email delivery. One of the things that we really focused on from a research perspective is how people respond to information that they have to log in and pull versus information that's pushed out to them. So a lot of people on your campus are just not going to log in into a system and check where things are on a regular basis. So you really want to be able to push information to them, so it's really in their space, in their face, and they really have no excuse for saying, I didn't log in, I don't know where we are, I didn't see the budget, I didn't see our goals, I didn't see how I should respond to that event. That automation is key to adoption. And so when you paint the picture and now and drive your whole organization to gain full operational visibility of where you are and where you want to go, where there's no excuses that people say, I don't know where we landed, when you remove that friction, the next journey you want to embark on is one of improvement. How do you actually take action that's based on this new information that you have found out, and how do you collaborate with others? And that's where some of the analytics tools come in that have been developed really over the past decade, and looking at different data sets and helping you make the right informed decisions. Helping you understand, let's say, the scheduling and efficiency of a building. And that's not something that just an energy manager should do. That's something that faculty and students can and should do, and we have some specific examples to talk about in just a moment. And so if you look across a campus, college campus, this is the Stanford campus. I really like using this example because the folks at Stanford are really leaders in the space from the perspective that they have realized that data is a critical asset to their organization, and they have actually allocated specific people that are in charge of data management for all their buildings. And they have a lot of technology. They're doing a lot of ambitious projects. They have a lot of different systems in place, and they've been on a journey to centralize all the information and really operationalize it across the board. And now that that's in place, you can begin to do things like detect when the building's base load went up because some equipment was put in the basement, something was turned on that wasn't there before. And you can now detect that and see what the financial annual impact is and make a decision if that's worth someone's time to go and take action. Or you can look at the schedule of a building and how it changed, and a single override now caused the building to heat all night and all morning when it wasn't used. And again, you can see that this has a significant annual impact, which can be leveraged and addressed, and significant savings can be derived. And again, these are things that not only energy managers need to be doing, this is everyone's responsibility to make sure that these buildings run as effectively as they can. And that's where the education component comes in, because on most campuses, I would guess that you either have someone whose job is something else and they also are the energy manager, or you have a single person who is the energy manager. It's rare that in a higher education context you have the luxury of multiple people, so you're resource constrained. And so you really want to educate everyone on your campus to be an energy manager and an environmental steward of your buildings. And so you really want to focus on kind of how do you go and crowdsource, how do you educate, empower, and collaborate, and how do you scale your own efforts as a sustainability organization. So running these programs, the biggest challenge with that is that you have a new student body that comes in every year. And so you got to re-educate kind of the new population of students and make them better and make them more aware and equip them with the right tools. So putting together a strategy that involves kind of training videos and content is something that we help our customers with, and we've been actually developing a lot of video content that can be used to very quickly educate new incoming teams and new incoming practitioners into the field. We're also creating a lot of incredible job opportunities for them coming on the other end for graduation, because they can actually graduate skilled at a new art, the art of sustainability management and the art of energy management of building assets, which is changing. The toolkit that people expect you to have when you manage buildings is no longer a tool belt, it's an iPad. And so data-driven building management is an entirely new discipline that is now emerging. And perhaps most importantly, in an educational context, is the opportunity to go and create a platform for innovation. So one of the things we have launched over the last year and a half is an entirely new API that allows students to develop technology around the Building OS platform. We've developed a set of core applications that we believe are really valuable, but there's also a lot of other pieces that we're just not going to have the time to develop, and we want student innovation and ingenuity to come and play and leverage our API to go and build those pieces. And that's a perfect opportunity to engage computer science classes. You know, at Oberlin, actually, the environmental studies department did most of the cool software development. It wasn't actually the computer science courses. And I was both an environmental studies major and a computer science major, and I learned more about programming and computer languages working with the environmental studies team that I did in my CS classes, because I was working on real problems that I was really passionate about. So I urge you to create the same educational opportunities for your students and really give them real problems to solve using real data from real buildings that are on their campus, and make your campus and your infrastructure an integral part of the curriculum that you design. This is actually a picture of me and my co-founder Gavin Platt, who's our head of design, trying to get data from buildings, trying to figure out how we can get the data to flow, how we can send it wirelessly, how we can get it into modern computer software so we can go and do things with the data. Some of the really neat research that came after our graduation and some of the efforts that were spearheaded, there were the development of these environmental orbs. So these are really LED light bulbs that change their color based on the performance of the building compared to how it usually performs. So we have machine learning that learns how the building works, and we can tell you if the current usage is higher than it should be or not. and that can drive a change in the light color of these bulbs. And so John and other students at Oberlin build these orbs, and they put them in different dorms so that when you come in, you get ambient feedback. It's neither push nor pull, and you immediately see with the corner of your eye if the building's doing well or not, and if it's doing poorly, then you know you should go and shut something off that someone left on. And so you sort of introduce this continuous feedback that doesn't take a lot of attention to look at with the corner of your eye. And that was such a neat project for students to be able to get experience in building electronics and building communications and Internet of Things technologies and working with software APIs. That kind of stuff you get later in your career in your field, and students at Oberlin were able to get that so earlier in their careers, it literally influenced their path as a professional of which way they're going to go. Some of the other research was less technical. Some of the other research, examples involved collaboration with the psychology team and being able to look at how different modes of feedback, different empathetic characters can evoke an emotional response with people and get them to change behavior, not just based on purely data, but how the data is presented using an empathetic character that is sad when building performance is not so great, and is happy when you're doing well. And a lot of research that was conducted and funded by the Great Lakes Protection Fund found some pretty interesting results that people really do develop this emotional connection with the data when you use empathetic characters. And that allows you to reach a much younger audience. A lot of the research there involved the students going and building an entirely new display that captures data across the entire city, and that's never been done before. No one's done this before. Lucid hasn't done this before. This is entirely an effort that was built using our platform, but none of our visualizations, none of our apps. This is entirely designed by students under faculty leadership, implemented by students, supported and operated by students. So this shows total consumption across the entire city, the entire community, the current state of the wastewater treatment plant. Is it a good time to do laundry because the wastewater treatment plant has capacity, or is it a bad time to do that? And then engaged a whole new generation of students. You're looking at K-12 students who are actively engaging with the data, and they understand what's going on in the community. And then a lot of curriculum was actually designed to be used in the classroom that is data-driven, that uses actual exercises using actual data from the community, from the buildings where those students study. And that creates immense learning opportunities. So that's where we really see a lot of potential is in building additional curriculum development. Customers like Stanford have also incorporated information directly on their sustainability website, which is now entirely data-driven. So you're not looking at dashboards that sit in buildings or some website that someone has to go to. Data is now incorporated directly into the Stanford sustainability website with components that we have developed. So the modularity of the data presentation is key because you really want to put the information of where people already are going and expose them to it. Other customers like Gonzaga University have run very successful sustainability initiatives, including involving energy reduction competitions. They've been able to develop the curriculum in a way that is scalable to do it year over year and continue to see really impressive results. And if you look at sort of the energy management angle of this, some other notable examples with Weber State are that they struck an agreement with the finance team and created a reinvestment vehicle so that any energy savings resulting from efforts from the facility and energy team that can be validated can be taken and reinvested in additional projects. And so using that collaboration between finance and facilities, they've been able to reinvest in so many opportunities over time that they have now reduced their energy spend by 30%. That's a very big number. 30%, so $1.6 million of annual spend has been reduced through this reinvestment vehicle. And we see that more and more. We see more and more organizations create these reinvestment vehicles where funds can be reused as long as savings can be demonstrated and validated from both capital improvements and efficiency improvements. And so at the end of the day, this is really what you're looking at. Data can support your efforts to create not only incredible learning opportunities and engagement opportunities for your student body, but also unlock about 17% on average. This is data from LBNL and is validated by our customers across operational savings, so savings from your buildings with technology you already have, without investing in new technology, provided that you have data infrastructure. Productivity savings of about 10% for your teams, and leveraging staff and students and faculty to unlock another 5% of behavior efficiency opportunities. And there's a wide range of how you can hit that. And so some lessons from what we've learned over time, and sort of what you should consider in best practices is number one, know what data you need. So depending on your goals, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, you may just need build data. Maybe you can get away with manually doing meter reads with students. Maybe you really need interval data, which is increasingly the case. But the good news is that's gotten cheaper and easier to do over time. The other piece is that make sure that the data that you do have is something you're using. You have more data than you think. You have data from a utility, which we can help automate. You may have smart meters from the utility, which could be automatable. You have data sitting in various building automation systems that you may even know exist on campus. So there's a lot of data that you already have, and maybe it's just not being captured, it's not accessible, it's not possible to get to it, but you want to look at that and start with the assets you already have in place. And get your stakeholders engaged early. You're going to need friends, you're going to need collaboration with the people that run the buildings, you're going to need collaboration with the people that hold the budgets, with the finance team. You'll need collaboration with student organizations. So engage the stakeholders early as you make a plan. And then agree on sort of the goals and KPIs that are important for the team. How to operationalize them, what are we trying to get to as an organization? Are we trying to hit a renewable goal, an efficiency goal, an engagement goal, an educational goal? So that's going to dictate how you plan this out and what kind of data strategy you put in place. And ultimately, your efforts as sustainability practitioners are to democratize energy management and sustainability stewardship across your campus. And this is really interesting. We've seen more and more schools involve students in energy management. When you make the data easy to access, students see problems, they report them up to facilities, and problems get fixed. You now have acute human insight working at scale across hundreds of different people looking at the data saying, hey, this doesn't look right. We should make an operational change. Not everything can be automated, so you need people to take action on a daily basis. And your team is small and your facilities teams are small, so you really need everyone's help to get there. And finally, find a friend. We really want to foster a sense of community between different sustainability practitioners so that you can share best practices and look out for things that can go wrong. So some recommendations there. Centralizing on one vendor isn't going to work. There's going to be a lot of technologies. Buildings are complex. Your job is to figure out how to connect the dots between all of them. You want to make sure you're working with data that supports your goals. And then too much data can kill your audience, and you can lose them as attentive members of your fellow supporters. So make sure you're presenting only as much information as is necessary to help them get there. And have an owner of your data strategy. More and more higher education campuses are hiring dedicated data analysts, data administrators in charge of building operation data. That's really where you want to get to. But if you can't afford that today, then at least have someone whose responsibility is to be the owner of your data strategy. At Oberlin, it's the Environmental Studies Department. That was our job. That's what we did. And increasingly, sustainability is where it starts. And so with that, I know we're running a little bit short on time, but I wanted to get through a couple questions that Ralph has been noting down from you guys.
Thanks, Vlad. That was fantastic. Some really good questions here. One specifically is interesting because just in the last slide, you talked a lot about, this is a new level, the data, you need somebody that can really sort of understand and embrace the data. Who are the different, if you're launching something like this on a campus, who are all the different people that need to be on board to launch this, to make it a successful program?
So ultimately, you need financial buy-in of what you're doing, because whatever you do is going to take money. So you really need to set out and say, look, the goal here is to, number one, move us forward on hitting our sustainability commitments and initiatives, and it needs to save money so we can afford to continue to invest forward. So you want to make sure you're engaging someone from the finance team that allocates budgets. You want to make sure you have a solid ROI business case of what you're about to go and do. And ultimately, you're going to be touching facility assets. So without the blessing of the facilities team and without their buy-in of what you're setting out to do, without clearly communicating how what you're going to go and accomplish is going to help them and provide them with a tool that doesn't create more work for them, but reduces the amount of work for them, is going to be really important. Another stakeholder I would say is IT, because ultimately to automate data, you're going to end up putting devices on a network. The good news is that the security of these devices has gotten much better, and it's really easy to deploy them from an IT perspective. But have a friend in IT, because they're going to come through for you when you're getting devices on the network.
That's very, very helpful. And it's interesting because that's a little bit of the catch-22 is on your initial comment, right? It's having a solid ROI and having a good project. The catch-22 is that it's kind of like you need the information that you would get out of Lucid to create that great ROI case study. So I think that's always one of the challenging things that we find in working with educational facilities is a little bit of this catch-22. So there is some sort of just commitment and a little bit of a leap of faith to a certain degree, right? That somebody needs to have the passion to move forward with it.
Well, I think to that point, a couple of things to note there. One, there's now enough data from a lot of customers that can sort of show, depending on the data that you have and how much you're already doing, what kind of savings you're going to see. So there's a lot of data points now, whereas 5 years ago there weren't that many data points to work with. So we can pretty definitively tell you sort of what outcomes you'll be able to see. And then the other piece is that you don't have to go big from the start. You can always, this kind of technology scales very well. So you can start with a showcase, but you always want to start with a selection of buildings. Starting with one building never works well. You want to leverage a portfolio approach because you want to make it competitive. You want, some buildings have more opportunities than others, so you really want to blanket a good chunk of the campus for any kind of sort of pilot you may be considering.
Great. Well, I guess that really speaks to the point that you made earlier about don't go down this road alone, find a partner. And obviously, Lucid can kind of be a partner in all the people that we've worked with in different institutions, so we can help with some of that. So another question here about, sort of this, because it's really interesting in the higher education aspect that making this part of the curriculum and involving students is sort of a very unique in the sense that it's different than working with commercial. What programs have been successful for universities that you've seen be really successful in really sort of engaging the students and making it part of the culture?
Typically, it's a partnership with residential advisors. The RAs in different residential halls, a number of them have a sustainability bias, and so they want to participate and support sustainability initiatives. So creating a partnership with the residential advisor on campus has always been great because they can really help rally the troops. They can be the communication vehicle with individual students, and they can really support the efforts, and you have more hands on deck. I think in the past, some of the programs that have been run have relied too heavily on RAs to gather data in a manual way. We don't believe that's an effective way because you spend so many cycles to manually capture the data that it just burns all your time. So we've changed our stance on it, and we really do believe that data automation is critical to your success because your time and the time of your people is probably the most valuable asset that you have, and you want to be really efficient with that. And automation has gotten way cheaper than it was in the past. So I think the stars are aligning now where automation is possible, and I think you can harness your resident advisors in much more productive ways. Also, environmental groups on campus are also a great resource to pair up with goals and initiatives that you have. And finally, get innovators, get this computer science students, get the makers and the tinkerers to build cool stuff. There's such great technology now from an electronics perspective, Internet of Things, connected lighting, connected thermostats. I wish we had access to that when I was a student, but now that stuff is reality, and the barrier for building technology has fallen so low that you can really create some incredible things like the orbs that Orberlin created in the course of a single semester.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks so much for your time, Vladi. I think it's always fascinating to me also thinking about how higher education has sort of this additional angle and value in these type of sustainability project, aside from all the other energy savings, cost savings, and forecasting, the utilities, and also these other benefits that we talked a lot about with commercial campuses and commercial customers. But there's sort of this really neat and very interesting angle for higher education companies. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. There will be a recording of this available if you think that this is something that other people would benefit from. There'll be a link coming out, and you can send that to them. And we look forward to any sort of feedback that you have, other material that you want to hear about, feedback about this webinar. And also, please look forward to other invites to future webinars with us. Thank you very much for joining us today. And Vladi, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you guys for joining. Have a good day.